Street Smart Sales.
Oh no! Don't say that. Me
I
too.
got
About 9 months
I,
ago.
I got fired, man. um, and if you're out there and you've been let go or got fired or laid off, or even if you want to get fancy and say furloughed,
Oh, furloughed. Oh
good
no!
old, good old furloughed, man. You can raise your hand from where you're sitting. You can have a deep sigh. You can punch something if you're able to do that and not harm anybody. But today's conversation is about losing your job, when you lose it, and how to get that business started, man. So, Brian, I know for me, if we're just staying on the topic of COVID, man, that was very horrible. Um, I'm not really sure exactly how to even really tell the story, man, because it was just so weird, you know. It was just one of those things to where it's just like, all right, you go into a position, you're doing great, you've been in that position for years, and then out of nowhere, the world changes and your scope of work changes, and anyone who's been in a professional setting knows that, like, you know, every quarter you're kind of biting your nails. That's like where you're going to go and all that, man. But you know, for me, first time I lost my job, which was a pretty big job. I was in management, I was valued, had never been written up, any of that stuff, man. And then it just all goes away, and you're like, what the fuck? You know, it's like out of nowhere is completely gone. Um, and I know that a lot of people listening to this have felt that way. And I know, like, today we just want to make sure that we talk about what steps to take once you lose that job, man. Because for me, I had to get over that shock of, like, I can't believe I just got fired. And then a lot of doubt may even start to seep in about what's the next step. I've been doing this thing for years, or I've been trying to juggle this thing and that thing and thought I was doing a good job. Then I lost my main thing, and how am I going to feed my family and all of that, right? Um, this is what we're going to do today. We're going to make sure that within the next few minutes you have all the steps that you need to where if you lost your job, or you think that you might lose your job soon, or that company is feeling a little shady some days, we want to make sure that you have everything that you need, and move forward in that way. So, Brian, man, as far as like losing your job, because your story in this last 6 to 9 months is incredible, and I know that we've mentioned it in our previous episodes, but man, we really want to shine the light, right, on how well you've risen from the ashes after losing your job here recently. Because I mean, my story is pretty good. It happened about 5 years ago, but man, your story is astronomical and it's fresh, and I think our people really need to know about it. And then let's go ahead and make sure that we tell people exactly what to do. So let's do it, man. Tell us about it, bro.
So with me, it was a little interesting story. Many of you will be able to relate to this. Some of you may not be able to relate to it yet. And I hope you can't relate to it, next month or the month after, whatever. You don't end up like me. But if you do end up like me in a similar situation, my situation was this. January 12th of this year to 2024, I lost my job unexpectedly, kind of expectedly at the same time, though, because I could tell that the writing was kind of on the wall with how the owners of the company had been treating me. It seemed like every other week, pretty much every week, I was getting yelled at or belittled or talked to about something. One of my deals, another situation, it just seemed like they were finding things or reasons to bring up in our public sales Slack channels to make me look bad, right? And it was just getting, the attitude and the behavior was getting worse and worse, and the treatment was getting worse and worse. So I finally lost my job. It was truly incredible, man, because, I didn't have another job lined up. These people
Mm,
screwed me over and refused to pay me out on a $7,500 worth of bonuses that I had earned as well over the last 2 quarters from my sales metrics
wow.
that I achieved. So they pocketed that due to a clause they had put in my contract that said if you're not an active employee, keyword being active, you're not entitled to commissions and bonuses and all this other stuff. So because they fired me, I was no longer an active employee. So they got out of having to pay me on my bonuses. They didn't give me a severance. They didn't give me anything. So for those of you that don't know, I launched my business 4 days later, which sounds kind of crazy, when I say it out loud.
Yeah,
But
man.
but I think the biggest thing that I knew in my mind was at this point, because this was actually layoff number three
Oh,
in
wow.
in the span of like 30 months. This is the third job, the third freaking job I had lost. So I was in a position where I had to do a lot of soul searching each time this happened. And I knew when this last time happened, I was like, I'm not doing this again. I'm not going to spend months of my life applying to jobs, um, just to have this potentially happen to me again, where I get shoved out the door and my Slack access removed and my email deleted and, lose basically everyone just kind of kick me out of their family, so to speak. Um, I'm going to do my own thing. And so the biggest thing that I had to realize was, who am I? What is going to be my offer? Right? I'd love to start talking about that. For those of you that are without a job, you've been let go or laid off or furloughed, whatever the term is that you want to use. You have to know what your skill sets are. You have to know what you're going to be offering to the world around you that can actually feed you and your family, right? Like, where can you offer value? What are you really good at? They actually love doing. For me, especially working with JB and a lot of my other students and my clients, I knew I was really good at copywriting. I knew I was good at copywriting coaching. I knew I could write, just really good copy in general because I worked on that craft for several years now. I knew obviously I was really good at sales because I've been in sales for so long. It's been like over 18 years now. So I knew if I offered some sales training, organic lead generation type of coaching, business coaching, copywriting services, I knew that stuff was valuable. Some people have talked to me, hey, what about ChatGPT? There's so many different things ChatGPT can do and these other AI writing tools. Aren't you nervous about that? Because it can do a lot of the stuff you can do. And here's where a little bit of mindset has to come in, guys. Yes, I'm fully aware of AI tools. I use them all the time myself, to help me like write rough drafts, and templates, and checklists, things like that, help me research. But I knew that the way I can infuse empathy and actual emotion
Mhm.
and effective
Yeah.
storytelling and put that human element into copy, I haven't seen a single AI tool being able to do that yet.
Yes,
Now,
sir.
doesn't mean it's not gonna happen. I need to be prepared for that. I need to be able to find pivots that I can make and transitions, and I'll make them when that bridge comes up. I'll be ready for it. But I just knew I didn't have a choice, right? I had to have my offer ready to go. I got my website up thanks to, a friend that I had made at a men's conference, at my wife's church, that I had attended. They got my website up. I had my offer ready to go, and I hit the trail, man. I hit it hard. Because again, there was no other choice. My job was gone. There was no bonus money. There was no severance. There's nothing. And I have a wife and a son to support. So a lot of you might be in this position right now, having that offer ready to go and believing in yourself and having the ability to articulate it properly. It's going to be crucial so that you can hit the ground fast.
Definitely, definitely. You know, Brian, it's great that you say that because I think what a lot of people need to understand about your offer and figuring out what you offer. And for me, this would actually be the first step. If people want to take note of this, first you need to figure out what exactly is the value, right? So what is your value proposition? And that's just a fancy way of saying what is it that you think you want to sell, right? And I say think you want to sell because it has to be a decision made with some logic and rationale. So not feel like you want to sell, but think you want to sell. Because I can feel like I want to sell some blow pops today, right? But I don't think I'll make a lot of money doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So think about what it is that you know that you want to sell that you believe will make you a good profit. So that's step one. Step two would actually be to research the different trends in the market that are working for what that offer may be based on what you want to sell, right? And all of that stuff is pretty typical. Here's the third thing, right? Here's the third thing that I've noticed, especially on my side of the world with branding and positioning is how I like to package it, right? Um, I'm not too much of a sales guy. Sales is involved in everything that we all do. And of course, you have to master sales to be successful. But I'm not going to speak for Brian on this because Brian is the Swami of sales and I don't hold that black belt, right? But I am I am pretty good with branding and positioning and how to leverage the core of what it is you want to do. And what I've learned as far as any business is it's not just about figuring out what you want to sell or what your value is, but understanding how you present that to the market, right?
Right.
Because
Right.
there's a million car salesmen, but there's also a million different personalities for those car salesmen. So you
Mm.
have to figure out like what skills and strengths do you have from a personal perspective and as an organization or as a startup, LLC, or nonprofit to where what's going to set you apart based on what it is that you're going to offer. And then what about how you do stuff? And you have to figure out how you're going to do stuff based on one, what it is, right? Because it has to align or somewhat make sense, even if you're moving more on the quirkier side of things with your value. And then also too, you have to figure out what your natural personality is. And
Mm.
I'll stay at home with this one for Brian, right? Brian's natural personality is to provide information and be transparent, which is why it's very easy for Brian. Go check him out on LinkedIn every day. Selfie video, walking and talking, providing information, giving that insight, being transparent, telling it like it is. For another person, that might not come so natural. They may have to rely very heavily on how they position their media like content, like their
Mm.
flyers and their visuals and their effects and things like that to grab people's attention. So figuring out your offer a lot of times is about, to me, 35 to 40% of like what it is you're trying to sell. But the
Yeah.
majority of it is figuring out how you're going to sell it, how you're going to position it, how you're going to show up so that people want it from you, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I think a big part of that too, JB, is the story of it all,
Yep.
right? My story. Uh, look, I'm the guy that got fucked over. Okay, if we can just call a spade a spade.
Yep.
Third time in 30 months, give or take, I lost another job. This last time was the worst experience of it all. I got fucked. And at the end of the day, I had no more I didn't have the privilege of making any more excuses. So I needed to have my story straight when I would go talk to strangers and ask them for their hard-earned money and ask them to trust me, again, a stranger on the internet or a stranger at this networking event or wherever I happen to exist in that moment in time, that I could actually solve whatever challenge it was that I noticed about their business through copywriting or sales training or business coaching, business consulting, what have you. Because everybody wants to know, right? Like, why are you doing this? Why do you have this business? Million things you could be doing right now. Why are you doing this? Why do you charge what you charge? Why do you do what you do? What's the story behind it all? What is the point of all this? What's the purpose? And why they're asking about your story is because this, John, they need to know they can trust you.
Yep.
Does your story line up with the kind of values that I've seen you exhibit in the few minutes I've talked to you, noticed you, watched your selfie video, whatever? Is everything adding up? Is the story straight? Is it on point? Are you trustworthy? Are you just going to take my money and never show up again? Or are you going to take my money and over deliver on the value that you're telling me you're going to offer me, right?
Right.
Stories sell, facts tell.
Mm-hmm.
Story is the money. When people hear that I lost my job again for the third time in 2.5 years back in January, and then 4 days later I launched this business, and that I'm not out on the street sleeping in a tent with my family yet, that I'm not homeless, I'm not on food stamps, we're not struggling, I don't have a drinking problem, I didn't get hooked on drugs, I haven't lost everything. Everything in my life didn't go up in flames. I'm not sleeping on my dad's couch, etc., etc. All these horrific plan to what might end up happening to people like me who are in a similar situation when they find out that I just landed my 51st client this past Friday. It's only been 9 months having this business. We've already helped 51 people. When people hear that little tidbit, when they see my profile on Thumbtack and see that I'm already rated as a top pro on Thumbtack, which is actually kind of a big deal. It's a big accomplishment. There's a lot of copywriters on Thumbtack. I'm one of the best ones, apparently, according to Thumbtack and their platform. Not me.
Right.
It's not my opinion, but it's how I'm rated, right? So they hear about those little stories. They hear those little nuggets of information, and their ears perk up that I must be legit, must be someone that's good to work with. No wonder I charge what I charge. So it makes it easier and easier for strangers to feel okay with giving me money, right? Because I know my offer. I'm comfortable with asking strangers for money. I know how to position my value prop. I'm big on transparency. I'm big on respect. I'm big on open and honest communication. I'm big on over delivering on expectations, over delivering on someone's value that they expect from me. And one of the next things that we can speak about, JB, is to find my people, my clients. I had a really good understanding of that after the first time I lost my job, right? When I was working with y'all. I lost my job at that company. So I had to learn real quickly, where are my people? I had found all of you.
So, man, no, definitely. And I think too, as we previously discussed about making sure once you know what it is you want to do, and then you start doing that market research, I think what many startups, solopreneurs, and entrepreneurs miss is that you might think you want to try to have something that everybody wants and you want to appeal to the masses and you don't want to limit yourself. You don't want to pigeonhole yourself and all of this thing. Let me give you a really tip right now. You can even consider this bonus. Make a start by it right now. Regardless of what it is you sell or put into the market, even if it's water, it won't be for everybody.
Yep.
Even if it's water, it won't be for everybody. So you have to get very specific with what your avatar looks like, what that is. And again, Brian has done it. I've done it, and every other successful entrepreneur has done it. And they may not have done it right the first time, and that is absolutely okay. You have to become very in tune with who your ideal avatar is. And I tell you what, here's another bonus. Go down in the description of this video. We're going to leave a link for you to download our avatar sheet. With this avatar sheet, you'll be able to fill out and answer questions that will help you identify exactly who your primary key demographic is for your specific business. Take your time filling this sheet out. Do not rush it. Answer these questions very specifically. It'll be a PDF link here. You can visit that link. You can download it, make a copy of it, fill it out a few times if you feel like it's confusing, or you can reach out to us and we'll help you out with it. But very important for you to know not only who your avatar is, but understanding what their care abouts are, where they hang out in the digital space and in the in-person space. And then after that, being able to make goals for your specific avatar. So Brian, man, as far as what you discovered about losing your job, making the transition 4 days later, doing this, of course, with a solid network behind you who will support you, but still, for the most part, essentially doing this by yourself, right? What tips would you give someone? They wake up to that dreaded email, they're walking out from that horrible meeting with regional managers, and they're walking out with the box. They just got back to their car, or they just
Mhm.
closed their laptop, and it's like, oh shit, what's next, right?
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
do I go? What do I do? Brian, it's been very recent for you. Tell
Yeah.
us about what you did, and then tell us about what people listening here should do. Because
Mm.
if they're on the brink of this right here, they
Mhm.
got they got to move fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
man.
I think step one for me was I needed to process my emotions and process what was actually happening to me. I think it's easy for outsiders and people that don't know anything about your life and your situation to say, well, you should have been working on a side hustle the whole time. You should have had a business in the background the whole time. You should have been investing in the stock market or in real estate, and you should have had a drop shipping business or this or that or 50 other things you could be doing right this second to make money. But guess what?
Right.
Sometimes when you're in the thick of it, when you're in your career and with your family, sometimes you get lost in your day to day. You're not thinking about a side business. You're not thinking about another investment strategy. I get it. Um, I've made that mistake before too. Trust me. But I think what's important is whether you've had a business on the side or not. Step one, process your damn feelings as quick as you can. Understand that it's over now. The job's gone. They don't want you there anymore. Okay? Nobody there wants you. And that's their loss. And here's why it's going to be their loss. This is the competitor in me. This last time I got fucked over after it took me all of, I don't know, 10, 20 minutes, something like that to process my emotions and get over how furious I was that this happened to me again. I realized, you know what I'm going to do? I am going to spend every day moving forward until I'm no longer angry about this thing, or I have an even bigger target in my mind that I want to hit. I'm going to allow myself to be so consumed by my rage that I'm going to take that rage and I'm going to channel it into something beautiful. And that something beautiful, that tapestry, that masterpiece that I'm going to create next is going to be this business. So allow yourself to use that anger and that frustration and that fury and put it all into your business. Again, process your emotions first. You have to work through that. You have to be okay. When you're okay, as quickly as possible, figure out what your offer is going to be. That's step two. Step three, where are your people? Who can you make this offer to that it would actually resonate with? What are you going to charge for that? Making sure that it's actually a feasible option. And from there, if you don't already have the paperwork and the quote unquote legalese already set up, we talked about this briefly last week on our episode. Get yourself the LLC or sole proprietorship or whatever, the business documentation in order. Get that stuff going, because it's very difficult, especially when you start building momentum when you're conducting business. If you don't have this paperwork in order, it can really snowball out of control and spiral out of control quickly for you, because you don't have your business bank account, you don't have your website, you don't have your LLC or your tax information, you don't have any of the necessary admin stuff done. So get that stuff handled. As soon as that stuff is handled, get out there and find your clients. One of the easiest initial things that I did, again, I didn't have any money, y'all. So one of the first things I did was I went through my cell phone and I started texting former clients like JB and others that I've worked with, telling them about my business ideas, telling them that I lost my job. If they know anybody, that could use my help, feel free to refer them. I'd be happy to work with them. I offer a 10% lifetime referral commission. So it'd be a nice way to make some money off me too, right? For supporting me and my family. And I ran with the ball from there, right? And I made 1,000,001 mistakes, probably. But I failed forward as fast as I fucking could. Because there was no money coming in. Just because it's the 15th and the 30th doesn't mean I'm getting a paycheck anymore. It's over. They don't want me anymore. I'm not welcome here anymore.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So,
oh man. And Brian, I'm really glad that you're bringing up fail forward. And in in my perspective, I've always loved to use the phrase or like the ideology of like earning your no. You know, like
Mhm.
don't assume no, assume yes, and then if you get a no, at least you'll know then that all right, that's not going to work. At least I tried it. I planted that seed didn't
Yeah.
grow, and then
Yeah.
I keep moving on. But here's another tip that I want to give as far as you lost your job, you're starting a business, you're trying to get yourself off the ground. My next thing would be after you've sat with your emotions, after you figured out what it is you want to do, after you've done that market research, and then now you filled out the avatar sheet that you're going to get on us, complimentary, that you're going to download, right? And then you know exactly who you need to speak to. Once you know who you need to speak to, Brian brought up an excellent strategy as far as reaching out to people through text message. Here's another thing that I found has worked really well. It makes you come across very relatable and very personable, right? And it shows that you still respect people's time and their current schedule. Because when you're just starting off, people either don't know you or they're not going to have time to set aside to have a long, lengthy conversation with you about your idea. Here's what you
Mm.
can do along with that text message, especially if you have an iPhone. No shade to Android or Samsung, but if you have an iPhone, and this is something that Brian and I have done a lot, right, over the years, voice notes work incredibly, right? If you record a voice note and you send it to somebody, make sure that voice note is anywhere between 15 to maybe 30 or 45 seconds, getting straight to the point, but people can hear your voice, they can hear your tone, your excitement, enthusiasm, your inflection. They can get a sense of where you're coming from without needing to get on the phone or take time away from their job or their immediate priorities. Then they'll be like, oh, like this must be a real serious thing, or this must be something that I should look into if they wanted me to hear their voice. Or you can also even send a personalized video. You know, you can do those things to set yourself apart in your market to show people like, hey, I have this great thing that I'm starting up. I have this great idea. Would love for you to be a part of it. Would love to have a further conversation about it. Would love to show you what I have going on. You know, when's a good time to actually give you a call? Didn't want to take up too much time, you know, right here in this moment, but did want to make sure that you knew what I was doing. So yeah, just a couple more strategies that people might not be thinking about that is literally in the palm of their hands, right? Not even metaphorically, right? Like, oh, I got the whole world in my hands. Well, I mean, in a lot of ways you do. Well, we want to make sure that you're leveraging all of those ways and strategies for communication when you're getting yourself out there. So after you've sat with yourself, you've figured out who your target demographic is, you know exactly what it is you want to do, then you're reaching out to people and building your network. Make sure that you're using every ounce of resource that you have so that you can optimize your opportunities.
Mm. Yeah, very, very well said. I think the biggest thing, and I like to finish my overall train of thought on this note. I think the biggest thing that happens to a lot of us is that we get told over and over again how much we're worth, um, what we're supposed to do, who we are, etc., etc. We get basically told how to live and work and function as a person. And when you have a job, that tends to be it. Just stay in your lane, do your job, right? You're not really encouraged a lot of times to go above and beyond or do other things. It's very difficult. It can be very difficult to get a promotion and switch departments and learn new things and meet new people. You're stuck in this bubble, right? So when that job goes away, a lot of times, yes, naturally, there's a ton of fear around the unknown
Oh
because
yeah.
you don't have a job anymore.
Oh
So,
yeah.
so you don't know where the money's going to come from now. You don't know what you're supposed to be doing. You don't have place to go to at 9 o'clock in the morning the next day or on Monday or whatever, right? So it's a lot of the unknown. It's very scary because it's not predictable. It's not a part of your regular routine. So if there's anything I can, and I can encourage anyone to do, it's figure out what you're good at, figure out what you love to do, figure out the type of people that you love to help and work with, and what you can charge for those types of services or those types of products that you can build, and have a really good understanding of where those types of potential clients will be. So you can quickly get out there and start getting some traction and some momentum, so you can find success in your business. God forbid if you have lost your job, or if you're worried about losing your job. I'm sure a lot of you know people who have been laid off recently and whatnot, right? So do everything you can to be proactive. Don't waste a second. There's no time to waste.